I recently completed a 3-year project for me, and that is a 10-acre RV park in the hill country of Texas. It is called Pierstoke, and in this video, I'm going to show you how I made a giant entrance sign for it. This one was tricky on a lot of different levels. Now, to get the most visible spot on both sides of the main road, I needed a sign to be near the culvert. However, the county plans to expand the road soon, and I didn't want to uproot whatever I made. So I decided to build it on a base that's mobile. When I did this for my other business, an indoor golf place, I built it on a giant pallet essentially because I have access to a forklift, and that's able to pick it up should I ever need to move it. Here though, at Pierstoke, I have no forklift. So I asked Jacob, hey, could you engineer a trailer hitch sort of design that the sign could be hitched up to if needed, but then planted when not? Now the trailer itself is pretty straightforward, with a frame being made of a bunch of 2x material that's bolted or screwed together. Then a spine of square tubing was added before bolting more of the wooden frame together. From here, a ball hitch could be added to the front of the tubing and a wheel that's on a pivot. Here we go! That's how the front works, and then the back has 2 wheels that are attached, but can be removed. All right, so the way that this thing turns stationary, reverse your clamp, lift it off the ground, and then unbolt it. Ta-da! After repeating on the other side, I could go back up to the front, lower the front wheel. Jacob had to back off the tension some by hoisting up the tongue, but then I could pull the pin and rotate the wheel up and out of the way. Now we can go to the shop and actually start building the sign that will go on top of it. Actually, before I dive into that, let me give you an overview on what I'm about to do so that it's easier to follow along. One of the biggest obstacles is figuring out how to build this big of a sign without it being too heavy. I recently had luck cutting foam for a parade float, so I said, hey, let's build it from foam. Then the issue was, well, how do you make it rigid? So I said, how about we build a core from PVC board? It's also a lightweight but an exterior rated material. Jacob did a few tests on a small scale and came up with a plan of making the core 2 inches thick total, with layering being made up of 1/4 inch, 3/4, 3/4, then another 1/4 inch. Once we build up the core, then the foam can be attached to either side. I'm utilizing my 2 shop sabers at my CNC shop to cut all the pieces needed. One machine started on the PVC parts while the other got started on the foam parts. And it's worth mentioning that they make high-density foam boards specifically for sign making, and you can order them in different weights. I special ordered mine from a shop over in California, and the higher you go up in the weight, the longer it will last. Now, the look I was going for was something that imitated the woodworking style called intarsia, where instead of just one giant silhouette, it's the shape that you want, but it's made up of several different pieces. Then, instead of having tons and tons of individual parts, the shop savers can make it look like a bunch of different parts, but in fact be as big as one sheet can hold. Total, I had 7 boards to cut up of foam and 6 sheets of the PVC core, which means I took over the entire woodshed shop for a week with all my parts for this sign. After all of the foam parts came off the CNC, Cindy would prime them. There is a specific primer for foam that I ordered from that same California company. It is very thick, so she had to use a variety of brushes to make sure all the nook and crannies were covered. It was not a fun job, so thank you, Cindy. While she was knocking out 2 coats of primer, I started working on building the core with Jacob. The first layer is simple, with 1/4 inch parts being laid out in the correct order. At this point, they're not interlocking in any way. They're just butted up to one another. Then I placed the second layer right on top, which is a layer of 3/4 inch material. I first wanted to do a dry layout and make sure that I had the parts in the correct place. I absolutely love my shop sabers. So many of my harebrained projects wouldn't be possible without them. I mean, look at the level of accuracy on the grass blades matching up here. Once everything looked accurate, we started gluing things together. With it being PVC board, we're using the classic PVC cement for this. The process was to apply the purple primer to both parts, then follow it up with glue. Now, the glue sets up very quickly once applied, so we're giving ourselves around 30 seconds to get it done. On smaller parts, obviously it's not a big deal, but some of these have a lot of surface area to cover, so we had to scoop. The primer glue combo here actually makes a chemical reaction, so it isn't like normal adhesive that just creates a sticky bond. We would both take a glue stick and assign sections to cover, then get the mating piece on as quickly as possible. Another advantage to using the sabers to cut these parts is we were able to create locating holes all over so that once the part was applied, we could push dowels to perfectly align it to the section below. It was that same process done over and over until the entire next layer was attached. Other things we were doing was adding weight after the parts were mushed together. We started by just playing Twister using our body weight. However, we very quickly moved on to using paint buckets, compressors, anything heavy that was freed up in the shop. After doing layer 2, we repeated and added layer 3, which was a direct copy of layer 2. And if you're wondering about all of the cutouts, Jacob removed any area he could in the center to reduce weight even further. Now, he did leave the centermost section around the tree trunk for added rigidity there. I'll say this, I don't know how you plumbers do it. This stuff is potent. Every shop door was open to get air flowing, but Jacob and I were still feeling the effects, so this is definitely a must-do in a highly ventilated space. Layer 3, we took a pause. Jacob was really worried. His main concern was the center section where the tree trunk was. He was worried that it would break there. I mean, we are essentially building a giant sail. So he designed a pocket so that I could weld together a steel frame. I haven't welded in years, but it's like riding a bike. I fired up my machines, replaced the battery in my hood, then used some scrap I had laying around my shop from my last massive welding project. And now this weirdly shaped thing I'm building should fit perfectly into the pocket. Whoa! Yeah! Man, I bet that felt awesome. Yeah, it just like perfectly clicks. You always hope it goes that well, but you never know until it does. We did apply some construction adhesive before plopping it in, and now slathered on some more on the top. The pocket is recessed a bit in order to ensure it won't interfere with the next layer of the core going on. But then we could start closing it up by adding the final and fourth layer, which is again that 1/4 inch material. Now the challenge was getting this 12-foot by 10-foot giant thing we built onto the other giant thing we built earlier in the day, or week. This spanned 3 weeks. A few furniture dollies and some coordinated scooting made it possible to get it outside to where then a few straps and the forklift could take over. This is a scary part. One of them. I started going up with the forks as Jacob kept an eye on everything and made adjustments.
Lift your forks up more. Keep going. I'm trying to get the straps up on the top of it. We'll go lift them up. Yeah. Yeah.
Yay! One success. Devin joined in to walk the other side back with us. Now, back when we were building the sign portion, we added in some steel sleeves in anticipation of this step. Those sleeves should slide over the side steel components that I welded to the trailer spine. Then the center section should slide right into that center frame tubing.
Oh, hold on.
We're going up?
There we go.
Yay!
Wow.
Oh my gosh!
Alright, hold up.
Woo! I can't believe this worked! Success 2. The next thing to attempt was to load up our DIY trailer onto an actual trailer and then haul it down to Pier Stoke. After adding back on the wheels to our DIY trailer, we moved it into place to align it to some ramps. From there, I pushed it a little at a time with the forklift while Jacob moved it side by side with the board, or tried to. So next we switched to using a chain hoist and pulling it on board. What made this hard is we literally had a 30-second tolerance to work with. It was a very tight fit. As I would haul it forward, Jacob would unstick it anytime it got stuck. Eventually, I ran out of throw on the hoist, so we switched back to a forklift to push it. I'll say it again, if you are willing to work through the obstacles, there are solutions to all the problems. Success 3. Okay, trailer on a trailer and secured down. Now to haul it down the road. You can see that we attached some steel cables, like what they do with cell phone towers. They're tensioned from both sides and did exactly what they needed to, which is keep it from flopping around. I had no idea if it would actually work, but once it was in the wind and moving down the road, it looked amazing. I could absolutely see some movement in the rearview mirror, but it was nothing to be worried about. When I pulled up to the park, they were actually about to lay the last strip of asphalt for the roads. The roads were the last major step of construction I've been waiting on, so it was a very exciting day. But it meant we had to get in and out quickly. I hopped into Jacob's truck and used his ball hitch to grab onto it while it was still on the trailer, and then just pulled it right off.
Hold what you got. Yep. Let's get over here. Go ahead. Wow. Impossible is that?
Nice and easy. Now in real time, I had to park it on the pad for the night, let the crew finish up the asphalt, and then let it all sit for 3 days. No problem though. I went back to the woodshed and kept myself busy during that time. I needed to paint all of those foam parts. To paint them, we have a little section in the shop called Outbound, and it has an open stud wall. I threw up a large sheet of cardboard on those open studs, then popped in a few 15-gauge nails. This way I could press on the foam parts in any configuration they would fit and start spraying them. I gave all of the parts 3 coats of paint, with the tree portions being brown and the canopy being green. After they were dry, I hauled them to Pier Stoke and we started attaching them to the giant silhouette. Now this PVC board is a really smooth surface, so I first took an ROS and quickly scuffed it up to create some grooves for the adhesive to stick to. We thought it'd be easiest to start at the bottom of the sign and work up. All of the foam parts would get a good amount of construction adhesive attached to the back. Then we would align and permanently hold them on with a 15-gauge nailer. You can't see it from this angle, but a tip to prevent the foam from getting dinged marks from the nailer is to use a putty knife. You can use a putty knife to compress the nose of the nailer. As we repeat the process for all the remaining parts, not only on this side, but also the other side, I'll give you the backstory on the name, which I love telling. This land was purchased in the late 70s by my grandparents, and of course was heavily wooded. My grandfather on a walk one day absentmindedly laid a stick in the crotch of a tree and then just walked off. Years later, the tree formed around it and he deemed the name of their land Pierced Oak. So now fast forward all these decades later, when I decided to develop it into an RV park, I never even had to think about a name. It was always clear that it would be called Pierced Oak. And yes, the tree is still on the property and was well taken care of during construction so that all visitors to Pierced Oak can see how it got its name. It's so funny how small it looks on the side of the road. But oh, I tell you, it is spectacular. Every time I've opened up a new business, I always make some sort of giant cool sign, but this is by far my favorite. It was also the hardest. If you're interested in visiting Pierced Oak, I am now fully opened and ready for visitors. I have 66 sites that all have 30 or 50 amp hookups, sewer, water, and plug-in internet. I've added some shade canopies over 13 of the sites. I have a huge dog park in the back, and I even have on-site laundry and shower facilities. I would absolutely be thrilled. If you're an RVer and want to come to the hill country of Texas, if you visited my RV park, you can of course see the sign and a few other things I've built there. That's it for this one, guys. I'll see you on my next project. It's a windy day. I'm over here working in the garage. We have 25-mile-an-hour winds, and I imagine everybody's gonna be like, what happens when it's windy? It's a big old sail. Look at that. I've been keeping an eye on it all day, and the wind is getting it. That thing looks steady as a rock.